This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and NIL Game Changers. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
This half hour brought to you by Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews, the best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drinks, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and out every day. 6 great flavors of slushies. And now, even more great selections. How about ready-to-drink cocktails like High Noon, Crown Royal, and Jack Daniels? All right. Well, that screams happy holidays, doesn't it? And, of course, the barrels and the dills, the pickle bar, indeed second to none. All at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. I'll get back to the quarterback situation here in a moment. The Detroit Lions are the best team in the NFC when healthy. Here's the problem. The Detroit Lions are far from healthy. The Eagles are now the best team in the NFL, in the NFC at this point because of talent and attrition. They've lost so many guys. They lost Khalil Dorsey, season-ending ankle injury on Sunday. They lost Aiden Hutchinson for the season. He could maybe play in the Super Bowl if they ever get there. They lost David Montgomery yesterday, MCL sprain. Okay? They lost Aleem McNeil, torn ACL. Carlton Davis, fractured jaw. I mean, everywhere you look, look how many points they gave up. Oh, they've got all these injuries on defense. Like the Lions through Thanksgiving were a better football team than the Eagles. Okay? If they played, I would have said the Lions would be 7 or 8 point favorites. Okay? But not now. At the moment, they have the tiebreaker over the Eagles. So they do have the based on winning percentage in conference games, and there's 3 to go. But they are so banged up. If the two teams play today, the Eagles will probably win the game by 10 points. Because the Eagles, first of all, are an excellent team. I just thought Detroit was better, but not any longer because you can't have the attrition rate that they have had with all. I have rarely seen a contender have this many injuries. Normally, contenders stay relatively injury-free. Not Detroit. And the Eagles have gotten guys back. Devontae Smith is now back. Right? Early in the season, A.J. Brown was out. He's now back. The Eagles don't have injury situations.
I think I saw a graphic this morning. I think Jack Campbell, the linebacker, and one defensive lineman are the only 2 guys that started on September 1st that will start on Sunday.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's the issue with them. Yeah. Do I think they're the better team when they start the season? Yes. Did I think the Lions were the better team on Thanksgiving Day? Yes. Are the Eagles the better team as we sit here on December the 16th? Yes. The Eagles are the better team. They're better. Simple as that. Better.
And now Detroit has lost a game that Jared Goff threw for almost 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, and won the game. He threw 5 interceptions. Right.
But again, because running the football is so important to them. Right? I'll never forget, Todd Blackledge set a Penn State single-game passing record. I think it was at the time, it was like 341 yards or something like that. I remember John Williams, the fullback, had 11 catches, but they lost to Miami 17-14 because they couldn't run the ball. And so somebody asked Joe the next press conference on a Tuesday out of Toftrey's about, does this mean we're going to see Penn State throw the ball a lot more? This is the 81 season. He says, I can't remember how many attempts Todd had. He says, threw the ball, let's just pick a number. 46 times he got licked. Those were his exact words. Insert whatever the number was. He says, what does that tell you? You have your own way of playing, your own way of winning. If Goff is having to throw for 500-plus yards, that's an issue because you're not controlling the clock well enough to give your defense a break because their defense is so decimated by injuries right now. They really can't stop anybody. They've got a lot. I mean, look, they have a lot of practice squad players out there playing defense for them right now. The Eagles right now are the best team in the NFC, and you might argue they're better than Kansas City. Now, Buffalo's really coming on, too. Let's not pretend Buffalo's not playing great because they are. But, it's the attrition rate so often determines who wins this thing, like who survived. It's remarkable. And by the way, I want to say kudos to Gary Danielson on Saturday, Army-Navy game. He says, no flag planting. The only flag these two want to plant is the American flag. Wow. Truth and power in that statement. Truth and power. All right. Currently in Dallas, it is 73 degrees. Thought I'd point that out. Tomorrow's high temperature in Dallas is 72. The lowest high temperature that they will have for the week will be the day they leave to come here, 58. Right now, the temperature here in State College for Saturday, and look, neither team wants to play in cold weather. Let's pretend Penn State's like, oh, yeah, do they want to play in cold weather? No, of course not. But right now on Saturday, they're calling for 29 degrees. 29. Sunday's worse, it's 21. 29 degrees, wind chill 15. It's going to be breezy on Saturday. That's why when I look at where does it affect them, this affects them in a couple ways. Number one, they are remotely not even used to this. Okay, at least Penn State. Now, Penn State did not practice outside last night. They did all their work inside. And it's not really going to matter practicing outside much this week. I mean, it can to a point, because tomorrow's going to be 47. They're not practicing today. Tomorrow's going to be 47. Wednesday's going to be 41. Well, okay. Why do you go outside? It doesn't really matter. But I think what James will do is he'll probably get a couple of periods outside with the defense, practicing outside, and he'll get a couple of periods with the offense, practicing outside. Okay? So at least they're in chilly weather. Let me see. Tomorrow's, 47? During practice, it will be what? 43 degrees. End of practice, it'll be 40. Wednesday's practice, they'll be outside. It's gonna shower a bit on Wednesday too. That plays a role. It's gonna be 38 outside. So maybe you go outside for a couple periods on Saturday, or on Wednesday. Okay, but they're not even remotely going to be used to it. I'm talking about SMU, right? 29 degrees, wind chill of 15. Okay, 100,000 fans. Now, let me explain how this works, because before everybody goes to the game and gets their undies in a bunch, I can't believe they did this. Okay, number one, Penn State does not control the game. It's the college football playoffs game. SMU gets 3,500 tickets. Now, how many of the 3,500 they sell, I don't know. Okay? That's going to be up to them as to how many they sell. But they get 3,500. Should be pointed out that 2,000 of them are in the upper deck. 1,500 are in the lower bowl. All right? We all square on the fact, like, I can't believe I saw SMU, they bought tickets. That's because that's their allotment. Okay? All right? So we're just doing the basics here for you, just a basic primer. Your best guide as to what the game can look like from a presentation point of view would be the Big Ten championship game between Penn State and Oregon. Lucas Oil Stadium, neutral stadium. Oregon gets a video with their players and whatever, blah, blah, blah. Boom, they enter the field, fire, brimstone, blah, 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 and they come on out. Right? Then they did the same thing for Penn State. Bang, 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 video board, presentation, fire, brimstone, they run out. That's going to be the same thing on Saturday. Okay? SMU's going to get a video board presentation. Then they're going to run onto the field as after they get introduced. Okay? Boom. Okay? Then it'll be Penn State lined up. They'll get the video board presentation. Then they'll run out. Okay? Now, will the Blue Band be able to play during the course of the game? Of course they will. But it's going to be coordinated with what the SMU band does, and the SMU band will be there. Okay? So there will be times where the SMU band is the one playing. There will be other times where the Penn State Blue Band is playing. So the presentation is going to be, right, of what you would see if anybody who went to the Big Ten championship game. It's going to be closer to that type of presentation as opposed to what you see in a normal Saturday at Beaver Stadium. Again, this happens to be the college football playoffs game. The tickets are theirs. The presentation is theirs. And don't get all caught up in like, oh, I can't believe it. No. Okay? But guess what the crowd is? The crowd is Penn State's. Okay? The crowd that is screaming is Penn State's. When Jennings comes up to the line of scrimmage, the crowd is Penn State's. All right? They played before a total of 156,000 on the road this year. They're going to play before 100,000 on Saturday. I'll give you an area that could be interesting to deal with on Saturday, and that is the outstanding kicker, Colin Rogers, who is 15 of 21 in field goals beyond 40. I've never seen that number before, Todd. 15 of 21. But you know what's interesting? It got down into the low 40s in the Clemson game, and he kicked a 53-yard field goal, and he was short. I was shocked, like, because I did watch the tape Saturday night. I watched the tape because the ACC championship game is the same time as the Big Ten championship game, so I never saw it. So I watched the entire game, and he was short on it. Well, I'm sorry, but if it's 29 degrees with a wind chill of 15 and some wind, it could play a role in what the decision-making process is for SMU if they're driving the ball.
He might break a toe in that ball.
But that's an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, that is an issue for a team that has relied, any team that's relied on 15 field goals beyond 40 yards. That tells you about their great scoring range. That helps. But that scoring range might be inhibited because of the conditions. We'll see. These are just things to think about going in. Also, the crowd noise. I'm watching Clemson SMU. There's 54,000 people there. Probably 35,000 of them are Clemson fans. Okay? The rest are corporate, some SMU fans. You know what I mean? So it's about 35,000 Clemson fans. They're all out there yelling, screaming, right? SMU did something they rarely do. They huddled a couple times. And Jennings is like holding the ears, the open area of the ears so he could hear Rhett Lashley talking to him from the sideline. And they rarely huddle. But they had to because of the crowd noise from 35,000 people. I mean, the second largest crowd they played in front of all year is 36,000. So those are a couple of things, weather conditions and you. Okay? That's where home field comes into play. Look, Penn State has practiced. Look, Penn State's played and practiced in cold conditions. I mean, the Maryland game, okay, was not exactly what you would refer to as balmy. I mean, the Maryland game was flat out cold. The Minnesota game was flat out cold. So Penn State's been playing in cold weather. Okay, now this might be a little bit colder, but Penn State's played in cold weather. At Minnesota was cold. Maryland at home was cold. Oregon was climate controlled.
But Indianapolis was cold.
Yes, it was, but maybe not to the extent we're seeing here.
Yeah.
But again, they played at Minnesota. It was cold that day. Cold. Maryland was even colder than Minnesota. So Penn State's played in the condition. That's the difference. It's not just practicing in the condition. It's the fact that Penn State has played and played successfully in the condition. SMU hasn't even remotely played in the condition yet.
I was going to say, it's hard to grip a football and throw the football when it's that cold, too.
Yeah, it can be. And Drew, of course, growing up in Ohio. Yeah. And look, he had no problem gripping and throwing it against Minnesota. He had no problem gripping and throwing it against Maryland. And Maryland, that was a cold weekend.
I was going to say, I was traveling in short sleeves, and I remember making a stop on the turnpike that I wish I would have put my coat on.
Yeah, true. Right? So those are things that come into play. But again, I feel awful about how the Beau Pribula situation played out. Beau Pribula, all you have to do is just meet him one time. You think the world of him. I want nothing but the best for him. Him, his family. He's not just a good young man. He's a great young man. And he really helped this football team a lot. But the NCAA has set up and just one of the strangest groupings of rules I've ever seen because, again, for decades they refused to get ahead of the problems. And when you refuse to get ahead of the problems, you do not sit down in the back room and do something smart and come up with solutions. Hey, in case this doesn't go our way, this is what we should be thinking about. You would think intelligent people, and they're allegedly intelligent people, would at least have the forethought to think that way. A business person would think that way. A good business person would think that way. Hey, you don't think the Purdy family doesn't sit there and think about trends and what could happen? You don't think Tom Mertz doesn't sit there and think about restaurant trends, think about automobile trends, car dealership trends, things like that, so they stay ahead of the game? All the time. Corey at Brewers Outlet, right? I mean, we just talked about the new product lines that he has because it's finally been approved. Boom, he put them in like that. Why? Because he knew it was the way to go. Okay? Good business people come up with contingencies and always are trying to stay ahead of the trend. For whatever reason, the NCAA just wants to react when they're forced to react. And when you're forced to react, you come up with bad ideas and bad solutions. And every time I turn around, they come up with another bad idea and a bad solution. Beau's in almost an untenable situation. I mean, it's almost stunning.
I mean, when it came out last night and we really didn't know anything other than that, I kind of felt it meant one of three things. Drew was coming back.
Yep.
They knew the quarterback they were getting in the portal already. Or Evan Gruckmeyer had shown them enough in practice that they were more confident in him than they were in Drew. Or Beau.
No, it definitely was not the last one.
Yeah.
It definitely is not the last one. Beau practiced last night.
Yeah.
And he practiced with the twos last night. Now, did he seem a little off last night? Yeah. Can you blame him?
No.
But he also knew at that point what Drew's decision was. Okay? And that certainly plays a role. Look, he's been the good soldier. He's waited 3 years. He's the number 3 guy behind Sean Clifford and Drew. He's the number 2 guy behind Drew the last 2 seasons. He probably was rolling the dice thinking that Drew could go to the NFL draft this year. And now the next 2 years, it's his show, right? Well, then Drew decides to come back. Well, now you're looking around saying, now what do I do? And it wasn't as if he hid this. and just sprung it on everybody. He talked to James several times about this. This is not something where, and they tried to work, to see if it was possible to work something out, right? But it was one of those situations where it became extremely difficult to work out. Now, I know Preston Stone, you'll hear people say, oh, he's going to stay, he's going to be the backup quarterback, and then he's going into the portal. Beau's going to be I know Stone has starting experience, and he's good, but Beau's going to be a far more attractive player in this whole thing than he is. It's just the way it is. The system stinks. And this is, again, goes back to why I think that we are at the point we need collective bargaining. You need to have a system that the players, represented by somebody, and the schools, represented by a group of individuals, negotiate what is best for both sides. So that you have a schedule that works on recruiting, that you have a schedule that works on transfer portal, that you have a schedule that works on bowl games. I mean, there's a lot of things that need to be talked about and discussed. And again, you can't keep kicking the can down the road. Okay? You need to have somebody with some guts, some leadership, and some foresight. Right? And the NCAA hasn't had that for decades. Decades. It's been a leaderless organization. Right? I mean, Mark Emmert did more to set this whole organization back, starting with the stupidity of what he did with Penn State. And no, I'm not taking that word back. As somebody who had to sit there through it. Right? They're more wrapped up in that, where they had no business being in that business. None, zero, zip, zilch, no business being in it. Okay. Let's see. State law says, HR department says, coach follows state law and HR policy. I think this is something we should stay out of for a retired employee. Instead of spending time on what they should have been spending time on. Having the foresight to say, look, we've got a lot of court cases. We better come up with solutions in case the court cases don't go our way. Did they do that? No. And you're now stuck with the situation you're in today. And it's one that comes back to, unfortunately, bite Beau Pribula, and unfortunately bite Penn State. Now, Drew coming back, huge. Candidate for Penn State, that's gigantic. Okay? That's gigantic. By the way, December 28th is the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I just may watch that to see the end. What do you think?
Well, it's got to be less creepy than how it ended last year.
I know. The trophy toaster.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want a trophy toaster now.
Most of America does.
The holidays are a time of year to celebrate and reflect. Reflect on the past year, a year filled with challenges and uncertainty. Uncertainty that bred resilience and hope. Hope for healing, change, new beginnings, and unity. United as one people, one community, by one mission, to safeguard and protect what matters most. From all of us at Purdy Insurance, we wish you health, happiness, and joy this holiday season and success in the new year.
Ho, ho, ho. Sunbury Motors Ford will help you get through the snow. SMC has the area's largest selection of 4x4s with over 310 new and pre-owned trucks and SUVs priced as low as $13,968 with payments from just $259 a month with no money down. Sunbury Motors has over 40 new 2024 Escapes slashed $5,000. Plus, get 1.9% financing for 60 months starting at just $27,615. SMC has 31 of the top-selling 2024 Ford Bronco Sports, discounted $47.50 and priced from only $28,315. Choose from over 45 new Ford F-150s with savings up to an amazing $12,616, and they start at just $46,549 with available 1.9% for 60 months. The Mertz family and all of Sunbury Motors would like to wish everyone a safe and joyous holiday season.
Who knows Santa? Sunbury Motors knows Santa. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Now from the Sunbury Motors studio, here's Steve Jones.
And this half hour brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia. Routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. For Kia Hyundai, best in new inventory. Proud to say I'm a customer. Great experience. Great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee and a terrific service department. Where there happens to be quick lane, inspections, routine. They handle it all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Penn State women's volleyball team into the Final Four. 1-5 last night. Took the fifth set 15-7 over Creighton at Rec Hall. And now on Thursday night, we'll get a rematch with Nebraska, whom they beat in 4 at Rec Hall. The other half of the bracket is Pitt and Louisville. And Louisville is the host, and yes, it'll be in the KFC Yum Center. Thursday night. What a season. And with everything that's happened to them, Katie Schumacher-Cawley, fighting, gutsy, through breast cancer. I was talking to Mike, and I said, Mike, she's always such a go-getter. He says, Steve, I can't stop her. I can't slow her down. Okay. All right. But the staff has done a great job. The players have done a great job. The fans are incredible. White out last night, which was phenomenal. And they're in the Final Four. And again, they play Thursday night. And that'll be in Louisville. All right. So that was huge. Wrestling team won easily over Wyoming. Didn't lose a single bout. Basketball team won big. They were expected to win by 30-40. They won by 48 on Saturday. And 16 assists in the game for Ace Baldwin. Somebody said, that shouldn't count. I'm like, why? Because it's Coppin State. I looked at him and I said, Coppin State's a Division I basketball team. Can't help if they're not very good. Like, geez. I always find it interesting trying to live by the standards of others.
Well, I was just going to say, if they took away all the college records against overmatched teams, there wouldn't be a lot of college records.
No, there would not be. No, you'd be shocked. Yeah. So, right now he's tied for the most steals in a game with 8. Did that against Northwestern last year, and 16 assists in a game. I mean, Tom Doty's record stood for nearly 50 years. It was January 29th, 1975.
It was so long ago you weren't even there.
That tells you how long ago it was. We were kidding about that because Mike asked me, he says, Jonesy, I said, no, I did not do the game. He goes, says, I was wondering. Yeah. But, yeah, big weekend. And, again, great job by everybody working together. The wrestling program going into the Jordan Center because they knew that women's volleyball had rec hall and needed rec hall, because when the NCAA has it, they run it. It's, quote, becomes their building. So they moved it over. And I think what they have yesterday for wrestling, 7,300, something like that. So it was a good crowd, considering the weather and everything. It's a good crowd there for wrestling yesterday. And now everything is going to be locked in on SMU here the rest of the week. Now, women's volleyball takes center stage on Thursday when they take on Nebraska in the national semifinals. I know I will be locked in on watching that after I'm done with the talk show. But it's been an eventful day that's created a lot of other news. But at least the news is at the beginning of the week, and now you can just kind of lock in on other things. And that's where we are right now with all this. It's, everybody says, well, there's no way to correct the calendar. There's a lot of ways to correct the calendar. I'm sorry. And one of them is you do need collective bargaining to have parameters put in place to allow this to happen. You need to start thinking ahead, because the 22 million part starts up. I mean, as soon as April 7th comes and goes, because that will be the day that it's finally approved, everything changes, which means you have to have solutions in place. And you have a lot of smart people that want solutions to be put in place. Okay? Start listening to them. Start listening. The era is over of anybody thinking that that we're going back to any system from days gone by. It's not going to happen. Okay? That system has come and it is gone. Okay? You have to adapt, and some people have not wanted to adapt and they've left. I understand that completely. I mean, ask yourself why the Nick Sabans and the Jay Wrights and the Roy Williams and the Mike Krzyzewskis of the world aren't coaching any longer. Great people who are great coaches. Ask why. Because, they've had their success and they kind of looked around and said, you know what, this system isn't what I grew up in. And I got it. And you have other people that have been able to adapt. You need to adapt. Because it's the reality moving forward. And the reality moving forward is athletes will get money. And part of what's going to happen is not just money to get people to transfer in or get money for recruits to get here. It's also going to be money that's going to be used for roster retention. Roster retention is going to be important for the use of money.
Well, I know you don't know, but let's be brutally honest, that has to be something to do with Drew staying.
You know what? Drew has things that work for him, but to be honest with you, he's not driven by it. Some people are, some people aren't. Right?
I mean, he's going to be at least, a high second-round pick, you would think.
I understand that. I do understand that, okay? But I remember in the off-season, it was preseason training camp, and there were a lot of stories about NIL with Drew and so forth. His family was upset about it because the story wasn't true. He's like, and they even said to me, what do we do about this? I said, don't do anything about it. Don't worry about it. I said, you know the truth, and when people ask you about it, just tell them, your side. Right? But there was a lot of... There was a story in particular about Drew and NIL, and the story was not true. Right? They never really have gone into this with an NIL mindset. That's not the mindset of Drew nor the mindset of the family. It doesn't mean they have not accepted whatever has gone their way. Of course they have. But it's not like the gigantic numbers people think it is, because he could command, obviously, a huge number if he wanted to. Now, he's commanded some of it, but some people, it's not what drives them. Not all of us are the suit. To be honest with you, okay, Todd and I could both make more money doing other things.
Well, I don't know about that, but...
No, you could. No, Todd, you could. If you're not in the newspaper industry, you would have done something else. You could have made more money.
Yeah.
Okay, could I have gone to... have I been... Have pro teams ever talked to me? Yes. Could I have made more money? Sure. But this is where I love it and the job I love. So it wasn't even a consideration. Okay? And by the way, I did not take a vow of poverty. Okay?
I was going to say, you're a play-by-play guy, not a priest.
Right. I didn't take a vow of poverty. Okay? I did not. But I'm just saying, could I have made more money doing it? Sure I could have. All right? So not everybody's driven by that all the time. Now, were there a couple of days where I thought to myself, maybe I should drive myself more? I'd say, sure. Absolutely. Right? Where I sat there, I should have gone for the money. Right? But, not everybody's driven by the same things. Right? And I know how much he loves the team. His father and I have talked about that. This is a family that loves sports. They love sports. All right? The Allars are season ticket holders for the Browns. Boy, we talk about, I talk more to Drew's dad about the Browns, about Jim Donovan. We know Jim passed away this year. Things like that. It's like, we don't sit there and talk about the game plan. They're just a good, down-to-earth family. Right? The mom, the dad, the sister, the grandparents, all of them. And that's the way he is. He's a reflection of them. Beau's the same way. Beau's incredibly down-to-earth. Great family. Grandfather I met, father, right? But Beau was in a really tough situation. And when you're sitting there and you are the backup quarterback hoping to get your shot for 2 years, and then suddenly it comes to fruition where you're not going to get your shot for 2 years, because the last thing you don't want anybody to get hurt to get your shot. You don't want that ever. Okay? And so he had to make a decision the way the calendar is. And anybody who sits there goes, well, they really can't do much about it. Yeah, they can. It's one thing about the NCAA. Stop telling me what you can't do and do something. The NCAA is great at saying, well, we can't do this, we can't do that. Stop telling me what you can't do. Okay? Tell me what you can do, and then do it. I'm not big on can't. I'm just not. I'm not big on, I never have been. Never been big on the word can't. We can't do that. That's because you haven't even thought about it. And I'm telling you right now, for them, they haven't thought about it. There has been very little thought put into how they have handled NIL, very little thought on how they've handled the transfer portal, very little thought on how they've handled signing periods. They've done like the bare minimum. Let's show everybody we're doing something, okay? Anytime that you are that in your job where we're doing something, We're going to pour more money into it. Okay, is the money being spent smart, or what? Or are you just pouring money into it so you're telling me that you did something? Too much of that happens. And they're making decisions based on showing everybody, look, we did something. Well, it wasn't the right thing, but we did something. That's the NCAA. You have you got a lot of time. You really do have a lot of time to sit there and come up with common sense solutions and talk to people so that you come up with things that make sense. And I'm telling you, collective bargaining in the end is probably going to be the solution here. Where it's hammered out by lawyers and representatives. All right. We'll wrap it up in a moment on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Ho, ho, ho. Sunbury Motors Ford will help you get through the snow.
SMC has the area's largest selection of 4x4s with over 310 new and pre-owned trucks and SUVs priced as low as $13,968 with payments from just $259 a month with no money down. Sunbury Motors has over 40 new 2024 Escapes /$5,000 plus get 1.9% financing for 60 months starting at just $27,615. SMC has 31 of the top-selling 2024 Ford Bronco Sports, discounted $47.50 and priced from only $28,315. Choose from over 45 new Ford F-150s with savings up to an amazing $12,616, and they start at just $46,549 with available 1.9% for 60 months. The Mertz family and all of Sunbury Motors would like to wish everyone a safe and joyous holiday season.
Who knows Santa? Sunbury Motors knows Santa.
The holidays are a time of year to celebrate and reflect. Reflect on the past year, a year filled with challenges and uncertainty. Uncertainty that bred resilience and hope. Hope for healing, change, new beginnings, and unity. United as one people, one community, by one mission, to safeguard and protect what matters most. From all of us at Purdy Insurance, we wish you health, happiness, and joy this holiday season and success in the new year.
Okay. All right. Interesting show today, huh?
Once I got everybody on the air.
Yeah, Ray was great. Yeah, they all were great. Yeah. Drew was great. Talking about Drew Robinson. Joined us on the show today. I thought he was fabulous. Tomorrow should be interesting. Neil Coulon. Rich Phillips, the play-by-play voice of SMU, will be on the show tomorrow. We'll get a full read on them from him. 73 in Dallas today.
I am jealous about that part. It's foggy and cold up here on the hill.
Yep. That's why somebody asked me when I was in New Jersey last week, did I see any drones? Because that's been a drone area.
Yeah.
And I said, it was a day like today. I said, I saw nothing.
They probably have to land for you to see them today.
Yeah. Tom Perkovich joins us tomorrow, and then for the comedic relief, Matt.
Poor Matt. Well, maybe not.
Do you listen to the segments?
I do. Well, maybe not all of them.
Oh, see, I'm with you. Oh, by the way, there's that holiday get-together Sunday for the station. Are you going to that?
I didn't see anything on it yet.
No, I got sent something. I'm not going.
What is... I don't have anything Sunday.
You can go in my place.
There you go.
I'm out.
Just so I don't have to use the voice.
I hear you.
Or give any kind of Penn State-related speech.
Oh. Who's capable of that?
Well,
oh, wait a minute. I guess I do know somebody.
I was going to say, I hate to break it to you, but I think that's why you're invited most places.
Pretty much. It's not because of me, I can tell you that.